Hey guys, I'm Scott and this is Cooking with Breeo. Today we are going to be making steak tacos, and let me tell you, they're going to be awesome. All right, first things first, we're going to marinate our steak. Got to do this like a day in advance, but really a couple hours is plenty. What we're gonna do is slap this flat iron steak in the bag, and then we're gonna put a tablespoon of cumin. And I'm going right on the steak with the cumin. I want that to set in. Tablespoon of salt, coarse salt. Always use coarse salt when you're using steaks, and coarse ground pepper. Same thing. Now I know that seems like a lot of salt and pepper, but this is a marinade, so it's all gonna get kind of brined on there. All right, next we have tomatoes. They're actually tomatillos, but they kind of look like tomatoes. Check these bad boys out. So I'm gonna crush these up a little bit and use that liquid from the tomatillos to marinate this steak. You can kind of cut these up, you can crush them, whatever. Doesn't really matter. These are more so for the liquid that they offer. Now it says use crushed. You probably can't find crushed at the grocery store, so just get whole, chop them up, save that liquid. That's what you're gonna be using. It's gonna be phenomenal. All right, so first, before I do that, I am gonna sprinkle all that salt and pepper around that steak, get it on there nice, and then I'm going right in with the liquid and in with all these tomatillos. Get all that flavor. You can do this in a Ziploc bag, you can do this on a plate, and the longer it sits, the better. Then I like to get all the air out if you can. Seal it up and roll it around. You're gonna let this sit in the refrigerator overnight. You want it to get cold. That's gonna sit on there kind of like a brine. And then the next day, you're gonna wanna pull that out about a half hour before you start cooking. All right, next, we're gonna be making pickled radishes. This is gonna be delicious. I know you hear pickling, you think it's probably something that's pretty tough. It's really not. All you need is hot water, a little bit of sugar, apple cider vinegar. You can pickle onions, you can pickle, really, you can pickle anything pretty much. But today we're gonna be pickling radishes. You wanna cut these up nice and thin. Just gonna take the top off. And then as you can see, these guys are funky looking. Just cut the tail and the stem, and then get all those ready. All right, so how you wanna cut these up, what I like to do with them, you can leave them whole, but it makes it a little tricky to cut. So I actually like to cut them in half, and that way you have a nice flat surface to cut. And then you're just gonna finely slice them, and just make sure your fingers are out of the way. And we're gonna go right into the jar with the radishes. All right, so once you finish cutting up all your radishes, I'm gonna put those in a jar. Now you're just gonna add salt, and this is sugar. You put it right on top. You can actually let it sit for a little bit, shake it up. That's gonna get it started. The natural juices from the radishes will kind of get started. And then in a few minutes, you wanna pour some apple cider vinegar right on top. All right, so we let that sit a little bit, and now we're gonna add some boiling water to it. What we wanna do is fill with boiling water almost to the top, but we wanna leave enough space for the apple cider vinegar. So we have our water boiling in the kettle over here. And we're gonna put that just in like so. And the rest of that we'll cover with apple cider vinegar. All right, so after you let that sit for about 5 minutes, it's melted all the sugar, melted all the salt, and it's been sitting in there nice. Now we wanna go in with some apple cider vinegar. And it should just cover it all the way up to the top. And then I like to put the cap on like so. Shake it up a little bit. And it's already starting to develop this cool pink color. That's my favorite part about these radishes. Same with red onions. We'll set that aside, put that in the refrigerator. As that cools up, it'll be perfect. If you let it sit overnight, it gets really, really good, but it's gonna be just fine for the tacos that we have here today. Now we're gonna mix our cabbage together. We're gonna get this ready. Now this is gonna only be used at the end, but we are gonna cut this cabbage up. Cabbage is pretty cool, but because when you cut it, you get all these colors, and you kind of can chop it as thinly or as thick as you'd like. I like to chop it nice and thin, and then I'll halve it at the end. Now, I don't mind long strands of cabbage, but I am just gonna cut it a couple times. Don't want anything too big. Cabbage can be a little tough to eat. I'm gonna leave some of these bigger pieces out, and the rest of this I'm going in to the bowl. Save that. We're gonna roll this lime, get it nice and juicy. That just squeezes all of the juice and gets it ready to squeeze into that. And you just want to coat, which just elevates that flavor. We got our sesame oil. Oh yeah. And then we're gonna mix it up. Get in there, get messy. And so the acidity and the oil are gonna mix really nice. It kind of makes like a nice slaw. Whenever you have vinegar or limes or lemons, that acidity is really gonna make this nice. It kind of breaks it down a little bit. And I am gonna add a little bit of salt there as well. Now, I can smell that sesame oil on my hands, and it's kind of cool. It's what you see in a lot of Asian dishes, and it's really nice with steak tacos. And we are gonna set that aside. All right, so as you can see, I do have this fire going over here. We are getting it to die down a little bit. Right now, it's just finishing out. In about 5 minutes, this baby's gonna be ready to roll, ready to put the steak on the side that we've been marinating. But now I'm just gonna finish up this yogurt recipe, which will top deliciously on these steak tacos, and we are in for a treat. So we have some regular Greek yogurt. I'm gonna scoop this in here. Come on. We are gonna cut up some garlic cloves. Again, you definitely wanna take the skin off of these. And because we're not cooking this garlic, you don't wanna have too much going on. You don't want too much raw garlic. What we find is if you have too much raw garlic, it dominates the dish. So with this, I'm just gonna chop it very finely. And then that'll make that yogurt really nice. Paired with the cilantro, it's gonna be delicious. We have some cilantro here. And same thing, we wanna finely chop this up. It's gonna really elevate this yogurt. Yogurt doesn't need a ton because it has that fattiness already, but this is just gonna add a little bit of fresh flavor to it. Chop that up. And you are in for a treat. And we're gonna put that right into the yogurt. I'm gonna mix it up here quick. And then we're gonna let that sit as well. That cilantro is gonna actually sit in that yogurt and make it really nice. And that is gonna top those tacos just wonderfully. Awesome. And set that aside for later. All right, so we are gonna add a little bit of cumin to this yogurt as well, just to spice it up a little bit, give it some more of that deep flavor. And as always, we can salt to taste. And I'm just gonna mix that in. And that's gonna go really, really nice. It also gives it a little color. That cumin's gonna bring it just a deeper color, and you can just smell that. It's just gonna tie everything together and give it a freshness. All right, next we are going to cut up the avocados. Now, avocados, it's pretty easy to cut. You just cut them in half and then take the seed out. These avocados are nice and ripe. You don't want them too ripe, but they should pull apart very easily. And then you're just gonna take your knife. There's a couple different ways to do this. Most people just set it down on a table and that'll pop it out. I actually like to hold it in my hand when I do it, but you wanna be careful not to cut your fingers, obviously. So, pop those seeds out. Half. Beautiful. Avocados. Pop the seeds off. And we are good to go. Now, there's a couple different ways you can do this. I personally like to use a spoon to get these out. That seems to be the easiest way for me. You don't need a big spoon. You can just use like a spoon that's in your house as well. But you just kind of scoop this out nice and pretty and slap it down on the table. When you're doing tacos, you try not to damage it very much, you know. Gotta make it look pretty. For tacos, I like to dice them. So I cut them long ways and come back in and just cut them like so. And those are gonna be delicious. Also, another thing you can do right off the bat is sprinkle with a little salt. And a little trick to keep avocados from going bad is to sprinkle a little lime juice on. Lime juice is gonna keep them from going brown, and so I will do that once I have these all chopped up. That will keep them from going brown, especially while you are waiting outside to cook the steak over the Breeo. All right, we're ready to put this steak on the grill. This thing's been marinating for a long time now. Ideally, let it marinate for a day or overnight. And then we are gonna put these wonderful poblano peppers right on the grill, on the outpost, and we're gonna cook this flat iron on the sear plate. So here we go, we'll get this sucker ready. Now the fire is still nice and hot, but it has died down. You can check that out, there's just coals in there. When everything's charred like that, I mean, that's what charcoal is, and so that's ideal for what you want to be cooking over. Slide this bad boy around. I'm going to raise it up just a little bit here. And I'm going to leave about half of it off to the side so I can cook the flat iron right here, put the poblanos right on there. Now these guys can be charred nice right on top of the fire like this. When you are doing veggies, you don't want too much flame on here, but we're gonna be pulling the skin off these and sweating these out. So we want a nice char on that. It's gonna add some nice spice, give some really good flavor to those tacos. Now for the sweet part. We got this amazing flat iron steak that's been marinated in tomatillos, in cumin, salt, and pepper. And we are ready to rock and roll with this bad boy. Something to keep in mind when you're setting this on, I like to always go away from you, and what you want to be hearing is that nice sizzle, just like that. That's beautiful. I'm even gonna spread a little bit of these tomatillos on the top, just so they roast right on there. And it is just gonna be fantastic. All right, so we wanna check all this. These peppers are already starting to blister a little bit. That's exactly what we want. We're gonna let those sit for a little while. This steak, it's a flat iron, so it's not gonna take real long. And the steak had the marinade on it, so I am gonna flip it here. You can see I'm getting a nice char under here, but I'm gonna let it sit just a little bit longer on that side. One of the things to learn with these sear plates is there's no given temperature. You can't read it and say, okay, it's at 400 or 600. It's kind of a feeling thing. Cooking's all about the feeling. So you just kind of gotta get used to it, and it's trial and error. Don't be upset with yourself if you do something stupid. If you overcook a steak, you undercook it. Although it's better to undercook it than overcook it. So yeah, we are gonna lose these tomatillos. I'm just gonna throw them in the fire because when we flip this thing, they're gonna go, we want this side to sear anyway. Okay, so we had this steak marinated. I just added a little bit of olive oil underneath it just to give it a nice color. And you're gonna see that that's really beautiful. Sometimes when you have a marinade, things cook a little different than if you're doing a dry rub. But I am gonna flip this bad boy. And you can see that we got nice color on there. I mean, that's gonna be delicious. We're gonna sear it just a little bit on this side, and then I'm gonna finish it off up here. In the meantime, I'm gonna flip these peppers, and they are getting really nice, really nice. All right, so this sear plate is for searing. With chicken and things like that, you can do it the whole way, but what we find with the meat is it's nice to sear it nice, really nice and hot, and then finish it off on the outpost. It's really up to you. You can cook it right on the outpost if you'd like. You can cook in a cast iron pan. These sear plates are really nice. You'll see this black stuff on here. When you get this bad boy hot, it's gonna sanitize that. Anytime it cooks it over 220 degrees, it's gonna sanitize any bacteria. So this stuff is just character. That's all it is. This steak's getting good. We have it a couple minutes on each side, and now I'm actually gonna move it up to the outpost here, and we're just gonna let that cook at a little bit of a lower temperature to finish it off. That'll make it really tender. It's gonna let those juices stay in there, but really be tender as well. This steak is fantastic. What I was looking for here is I did probe it. There's a couple different ways you can tell how steak's cooked. Some people say use the hand technique. Outside of your hand is like well to mid-well, inside is medium, and then rare would be like right on your thumb there. I don't know, everybody's thumb thickness and hand thickness is a little different. So thermometer is really good. These are pretty cheap anywhere, but you just probe it in there. You wanna pull it off right at about 140, and we are right at 142. So I'm gonna get that off pretty quick, and then we wanna let it rest. It's gonna keep cooking the rest of the way. This sucker is just phenomenal. So, general rule of thumb, let your steak rest as long as you cook it. You wanna do that in most cases, even when smoking meat, whatever, let it rest as long as you cook it. Obviously, if you have like a roast in the oven for 4 hours, you don't have to let it rest for 4 hours. But we're gonna let this rest for about 6 minutes, 5-6 minutes. That way all the juices will go back into the steak. When we cut it, they won't end up on the plate, they'll end up in each piece. I am gonna flip these peppers one more time. Those are getting scrumptious. And we will cut those up in a little bit. Now, for the fun part, we're gonna toast these off just a little. With corn tortillas, you don't want them to get too hot or they'll get really crispy like corn chips, but it is really nice to heat them up just a little bit. I think it gives them a little bit of texture. And with this outpost, if you got it, you might as well use it. I'm gonna raise it up a little bit, and we will warm those up for a delicious, delicious dinner. All right, so these corn tortillas have just been lightly toasted. You can see they're not crunchy, but they're nice and warm, which is gonna be fantastic for making these tacos. We're just gonna put those right like that. Now we are cooking, baby. And then we'll pull these peppers off. They're gonna be nice and fire roasted. Get those over here on the plate. We'll let those chill for a little bit. We're gonna take the skin off these peppers, just because it's nice and charred. You can kind of peel those off. This isn't gonna be it's not a pretty thing, but you just kind of gotta pick at it. They come off nice. Another way to do this is toss them in a jar, let them sweat for a little while. But in this case, we're going quick and easy. I'm gonna cut these up into strips. I'm gonna avoid getting the seeds by cutting right around the head. And when you don't let the peppers sweat, the seeds stay in place. And you have that, and you keep some of that spiciness out. We're just gonna cut these up into strips, and they're gonna go beautifully in the taco. That is gonna be delicious. Alrighty, so we have everything cut up. We got the poblanos, we got the cabbage, we got the nice, beautiful avocado with a little bit of lime to keep them from browning. We got our nice yogurt, and then these radishes, which are gonna be delicious. But the moment of truth is this steak. And here we are. I let it rest for 5-6 minutes. This beautifully marinated flat iron steak. And it is just gonna be fantastic. And for tacos, I'm gonna go nice and thin. And it's nice and juicy. Look at that. This is like a nice medium to medium well. And for tacos, it's fantastic. But oh my word. Oh, baby. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Makes it all worth it right there. Now we have delicious food for everybody to share. I like to go 2 pieces of steak. Got the peppers for a little bit of spice. Obviously some cabbage with that sesame oil. Don't be afraid to throw some of the avocados in there. And then now for the little icing on the cake, we got these pickled radishes. Which for a lot of you guys, I know you're gonna think, oh, I'm not a pickled radish kind of guy. It's pink. Get over it, enjoy. And nothing like topping it with this beautiful cilantro cumin yogurt. All right, and then just to top it off, a little bit of lime juice. This is what it's all about. Come on. That steak is so tender, mixed with all those awesome flavors. It has like kind of an Asian kick to it with that sesame oil. Oh my word, and then it just finishes off so nice. I do think I want a few more of the poblanos to give it some more spice. If you want, leave those seeds in. It's up to you guys. Thanks for watching, really appreciate it. I'm gonna stay here and enjoy this. Have a good one. I'm serious.